Hello and welcome to After School Special. This is the Miss Marvel reaction show from the Comic Crush. I am your host, Paul. This week we're going to be talking about episode 3, Clandestine. Oh, sorry, Destined. We'll get to the clandestine stuff in a minute. But before we do that, let's welcome my co-host, Liz. Hello.
Hello.
Liz, great to see you as always. How you been?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Very exciting week in the world of sort of geeky television.
Yeah, lots happening.
So much.
So, I mean, we've obviously got the new episode of Miss Marvel, the finale of Obi-Wan, which in a couple of weeks you and I are hopefully going to be guesting on our buddy Keith, Home Media Mindfield's show about, or Let's See What's Out There, I think is the banner he runs that particular one under. He's going to be doing some sort of post-analysis stuff, and we're going to be jumping on that for an episode. But we'll let you know more about that in a couple of weeks.
And also the boys and Umbrella Academy, I think, is starting.
Yeah, so
it's just wild.
Umbrella Academy has started this week. It started on Wednesday. I haven't had a couple of minutes to watch an episode yet, principally because Paramount Plus also dropped in the UK this week, which is the Paramount streaming service. So I've jumped on the free trial of that to watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which cunningly they've only put 3 episodes up of to stop people from burning through it in the free trial. We'll let you know how that goes. Is it going to be a subscription service I'm going to buy? I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about that. In fact, we'll talk about that with Keith in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. And as you point out, The Boys. So The Boys is like on episode 6.
Yeah,
I haven't. Right. So I haven't watched this particular episode.
Oh my God, Paul. Wild times.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one I'm going to have to watch alone. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure it's one for the missus, really. She hasn't been watching The Boys, but I think this would put her off.
I suspect you're correct. This is like the one that like loads of people have been just like counting down to because it's the Hirogasm episode.
Yeah. Which I've not read in comics.
Okay, I have. Yeah, I was like, how are they going to do this? How are they possibly going to do this? But they do it.
There obviously is that big moment in episode 1 of this season of The Boys that I found particularly kind of stomach. And I think as a guy, you all know what bit I'm talking about. There's no need to go into it in a show that's about a show.
Right, we're talking about Ms. Marvel here. Obviously, let's not go down this particular rabbit hole or other hole.
Some of you might be wondering why we don't. We've never really. We've only ever done one show on The Boys for the first season. I hope that we will be able to come back and do a sort of post-season kind of thing on this season. Maybe combine it with the Umbrella Academy, which we'll have to do when we've kind of caught up with that. Just because, guys, there's so much right now, and there's a lot of projects I want to do for the Comic Crush, and we can't do after shows or reaction shows for every show that's out there. But it's safe to assume. I think Nikki would probably love coming onto the Boys show, so maybe we can all get together and do a sort of
a little
post-mortem. Yeah. I think it would definitely.
I gotta say, I've been loving this season so much. It's just been,
interesting enough, that's one of the places where I think yours and Nikki's tastes really do converge, which is in the more kind of gruesome, because Nikki really loved doing the Peacemaker show, because she's like, this is more my speed of stuff, and that was, and yet we didn't talk about the more kind of profane stuff in Peacemaker. What we really talked about was the meanings and the themes of it. And I was genuinely surprised we went there, but that's where we went. But I think with the two of you on, it might go somewhere else.
We'll find out. I mean, hopefully.
Since you're both little animals at heart.
Yeah. Geez, the joy it's brought me. But
Yeah.
but I digress.
Yeah, we are here to
another-
talk about Miss Marvel. I just want to say thank you to all the new subscribers who've jumped on, and to everyone who's watching. I hope you're catching up with the second episode as much as the first, which is, the numbers of that still going up. And I'm really happy that you're all enjoying it. And I hope you're kind of tuning in for the second. I do just want to, before we hit the actual kind of main bulk of the show, I do just want to go through a quick comment we had on last week's episode, which was from our buddy Varsas, who joined us ages ago and has commented before, and he commented on this, and it is relevant to this episode as well. So I really enjoyed he was talking about episode 2 here. I really enjoyed the episode. So looking forward to the next one. I don't think they abandoned Kamala's background from the comics with her powers, because I think you remember last week we did talk about the change in powers. Yeah. It's so weird because to read the comment, I've got to look at the video, and I'm watching us as I'm watching us. Yeah. I don't think they abandoned Kamala's background from the comics. They're still tied to her genetics, although not in human, and are still triggered through not the Terrigen mists, but other things. I think it would be good to keep Cameron in the loop too, by sharing heritage or distant genes, although again, not in human. I agree with Liz about the costume change being the only niggle. That was, I think, your issue with the speed at which she took time to change her costume before rescuing that kid at the Mironet. No hint that it pulled me out of the show for a moment, though. A little telltale scene or sighting would have been all they needed. I don't think the person in the vision was the same, but it's been confirmed. So it would mean that it wasn't her grandmother Aisha that was calling out, and he was, of course, absolutely right there, as you were. So I was totally wrong, for which I apologise to everyone on the planet. I apologise. No, yeah, I was completely wrong about that. I misunderstood there. So Aisha is a separate character, not the character. Have they given this character a name?
Namja,
but, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. But I I still, like Cameron's mom is, is how I keep thinking of her.
Yeah. So they, she isn't the grandmother, although we might still meet Aisha, judging by this week's episode, and we did kind of meet her in a flashback. Because we have, thank you to Varses for commenting, by the way. Really appreciate all the comments we get. And if you've got anything to say to us about the episode, about our show or Miss Marvel, please do drop it in the comments, and I will respond to everything, as long as it's polite. So we start in British occupied India, 1942, right during partition. Where the English split the country down the middle, and you have India and Pakistan now. So we have the discovery of the bangle, and it's something the characters are looking for. And they do say at the beginning, this is the only way for us to get home. We don't know what that means yet. But as we go into the episode, which is kind of an immediate pickup from the end of last week's show, Kamala is with these guys, and they reveal that they're interdimensional beings, which I found quite interesting. Before
we move into that scene, sorry, I still want to touch quickly upon the scene,
please.
That is set in
please. Sorry, Liz, go for it.
In that tomb or whatever it was. There were a couple of things in there worth noting. One is like that the severed hand that they found with the bangle on it was blue skin, which would lead me to believe that it's a Kree.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, that sets up an interesting, connection potentially with Carol Danvers, and, a link there, which it's like, oh, okay, so what does the bangle have to do with the Kree?
So Carol, can we just flashback? Carol absorbed her powers from the crash she was involved in, right?
Right.
Which is a Kree device built to save Skrulls, as I recall. I've watched.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched Captain
Yeah.
Marvel or read her origin, but yeah, that's like the gist basically.
Right.
So her powers come from the Kree.
So it would make you're absolutely right. It would make total sense.
Mm-hmm. So that I found very interesting. We are also told there's another bangle. So one is still missing. But the one that Kamala has is the one that they found there. And Aisha, her great grandmother took it and ended up being separated from the rest of the, we come to find out are called clandestines or jinn. Maybe.
Now this I do. This is something I want to kind of go over with you.
Right. The other thing I want to briefly mention, if you look for it, is there's like a reference to the 10 rings in there.
Okay,
so,
where?
Like symbols on the floor, so if you go back to that scene, it's set in like a well almost. It's like and on the floor like the 10 symbols. So that's another thing that we kind of I think talked about last week is like, oh, is there a connection to the 10 rings? Like maybe.
Yeah.
So that's also worth noting.
Okay, nice one. This is one of the reasons why I'm always glad to have you on this, because you do pull in a lot more from these shows and their kind of rich mythology than I do. And I'm always glad that there's someone who's kind of more observant than I am watching this stuff. So I do really appreciate that you kind of dived in there, because that does offer a lot of kind of clues and sort of. I mean, it's a weird stage now because we're kind of getting more and more cosmic with the Marvel Universe, even more than Thanos and things like that. And I find it kind of very interesting. We're dealing now with other dimensions, multiverses, things like that. And that just, it does open it up so much more. And it would be interesting if the origin of this bangle was tied to the 10 rings and tied to the kind of cosmic power they contain, because we were left with that tantalizing thing at the end of Shang-Chi where they don't know, the power of the 10 rings is coming from, and it's kind of sending that, wasn't it? It was sending out a signal every time he used them, and they don't know where the signal. I can't remember the.
I can't remember the details
really
of that either, to be honest. But yeah.
I've really got to watch the new the Shang-Chi movie again.
Yeah, I've seen it twice. Which it means I'm due for another viewing.
Yeah, to catch up with the 36 viewings of each.
Yeah, my normal intake of Marvel movies.
Although it's not one that I feel I enjoyed enough to watch 20 times. It's not,
I liked it a lot. It's rewatchable to me, but I probably wouldn't watch it, as many times as I've watched, I don't know, Thor Ragnarok, or like some of my real, Avengers. The first Avengers movie I've watched about 100 times.
Okay.
So.
Well, I am in the middle of a big Marvel rewatch. Where am I at the moment? I think I've just finished Black Widow. So I can't remember what's next, but I'm kind of there. I'm that's where I am in the timeline. I'm watching them in not release order, but story order.
Okay. So like you're back in, you've gone way back in time then with.
So I'm on Civil War.
Right.
I'm just past Civil War now. But yeah, I've taken a bit of a break just because obviously so much stuff on at the moment. Now,
so back to the them being interdimensional beings, yeah.
So now she's asked, like, what are they called, and she says, well, we've gone by many names, the unseen,
clandestines.
The clandestines. Now she also says we are most commonly called jinn.
Right.
And going back into kind of Muslim cultures and then Arabic culture, you are dealing with, not to put a dismissive term on it, but genies and things like that, and things that could do magic. But what really interests me about this is the fact that she describes them as the clandestines. Because there is the clandestine from Marvel history, which started off as kind of two factions. One was I believe Adam of Ravenscroft, who then is dubbed Adam of Destine after he survives a sort of mysterious attack that he shouldn't have survived, and then kind of apparently uses magic to survive. Those guys have been kicking around for centuries and are very much tied into things like the X-Men. I think they first appeared in their own miniseries, and then they jump into some X-Men, like an X-Men miniseries, and then back into their own miniseries. So we could be looking at a sort of backdoor intro for
right. Yeah, see, which is obviously,
although
I'm looking at everything that way these days.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, so when are we going to get the X-Men? Is that a reference to the X-Men?
There's a checklist, right?
The coming of the X-Men. Yeah, I know.
There's a checklist, right? The X-Men, Mephisto.
Yeah, that's how my mind works.
And who else? Like, there's got to be some others that we're kind of desperately waiting for. We know Wonder Man is apparently on his way.
FF, obviously. It's
the FF.
So.
Although that's kind of been dealt with and dismissed by Wonder.
Sort of.
Now, I think. Do you know what I think is going to be more likely? I think it could be a kind of back way into Excalibur and Captain Britain, and how they play that, and how they put that at odds with the kind of Indian mythology versus the British mythology. I don't know, but that might be an interesting conflict. That might be something interesting. And Feige has said, and I think we might have mentioned this last week, that the next big thing that's going to kind of dominate this phase and the direction it's going in will be revealed soon. We already know there's a Thunderbolts movie by all accounts. Anyone trying to buy first appearance of Wonder Man will probably be in for a shock this week if they go on eBay, because of course that's been talked about. Meanwhile, in the regular Marvel universe, the comics universe, Miracle Man is definitely making a comeback, and there is apparently some sort of backdoor plan to shuffle in Miracle Man to the MCU. I don't know. It's all open for conjecture, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Kamala is kind of told that the only way they can get home is using the power of this bangle. However, by all accounts, they need two to do it, and we don't know where the other one is yet, right? I mean,
right, we don't. So because I thought it was going to be revealed that Kamran's mom had the one bangle and Kamala has the other, and that's
I think it's
like
more.
That's the case.
I wonder if. Okay, so one, I wonder if we're going to see Aisha in the modern context.
Well, yeah, because we can see that they don't age. So, the fact that she just disappeared at a, relatively young looking age, says to me that quite possibly she could turn up not having, visibly aged a day.
Yeah.
And, so perhaps it seems to me that the bangle that Kamala has is the one that she would have had, but there is still another bangle out there. So it's at this point, impossible to say where that bangle is.
Or her grandmother's got it. Because if we go to where where the episode ends, which we will get to in a moment, then there could be some stuff there. So I think Kamala's grandmother in Karachi could have the other bangle. But she's told, look, we need this to go home, and she kind of tasked Bruno with, can you work out how this would work? Like, is it is it possible about these other dimensions? And he mentions a paper by Eric Selvig.
Yeah, which I loved.
It was a nice name check. I'd like to see Eric kind of pop up in this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Character I love, even though he's mad as a box of bats whenever.
Well, I think he's. I think. Well, I don't think he's like in full on confusion mode. I think was Thor: The Dark World the last time we saw him, or
no? I think, don't we see him?
Did we see him after? I feel like maybe in like Endgame, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know. Yeah, me neither. It's all a blur, but yeah, he's a character that I'll just
blur.
always be happy to see. So.
Yeah. As a lot of those characters, interesting enough, Thor: Love and Thunder just had its premiere, and at the premiere was Kat Dennings. So we don't know if she's going to pop up.
It would be really great to see Darcy, and it would make perfect sense. You've got Jane in the movie, obviously, and Darcy's like her sort of sidekick.
Yeah,
and she's such a joy to see in WandaVision.
Yeah, and it's been like a year now since we've seen Darcy, so it'd be good to see her, a year and a half maybe. So it'd be great to see her again. In fact, it would be nice to get those three back together. I think, even if it's just one last sort of rodeo. We've also got this thing that I'm finding extremely enchanting about the show, which is every episode is set around a kind of community celebration, which I love, because we had, was it Eid last week? I can't remember what the first episode was centered around, but this is her brother's Amrit's wedding, and I love the fact that they're finding these kind of examples and ways of showing the community coming together in each episode. I'm just really loving it. Although I did realize in this episode, like an idiot, for some reason, I think it's just because I'm usually exhausted when I'm watching it. So it's like the end of the day, because Steph's watching it with me, so we watch it over our kind of evening meal. I've been confusing her father and the imam in the mosque for the last 2 weeks. I'm just like, wait a minute, they are two different, like a complete idiot.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, and I also don't want to skip over the scene in the mosque, actually, where damage control shows up.
Yeah. Because that is kind of reminiscent of a lot of things that Muslims went through post 9/11, and it also kind of shows Nakia kind of coming into her own, and I loved that. Did you not love that bit where she was just like, I'm a board member, and someone just shouts out, "No, the votes have been counted."
Yeah,
I loved it. I only caught that on the, I watched it twice. I only caught it on the second view.
Right. But she's obviously, she's already convinced that she's won, and of course she's correct. And she just tells him, you like come back with a warrant, and she totally holds her ground. And I loved the the pastor saying, I'm sorry, is it Imran?
Imam, I believe.
Imam. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I believe. And sorry to anyone if we're getting that wrong.
Yeah,
please do comment and correct us, because we want to know these things going forward.
The Imam saying, "Oh yeah, and next time take your shoes off."
Yeah.
Because it's what they're doing is disrespectful on a number of levels, including that.
And also I think it's one thing it does show is, if you go back to when damage control was created, sort of post Avengers, and set up by Stark and is it the US government? It's like a joint kind of
something,
task force. we're moving pretty far away from Tony's vision of what it could be.
Oh, totally.
And I think because he's not there, we're now into this thing where it becomes this very draconian kind of organization that's
yeah. I mean, we're moving back into like, you know, sort of Shield when Shield was bad sort of territory.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, is any of that tied to the Skrulls? Is it, you know, for Secret Invasion, is any of that tied to Hydra still? Because really, it's only, I'm trying to think of the shows that have dealt with the remnants of Hydra. I mean, obviously, I know Civil War did brilliantly, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also did. I don't know if you see that, but the internet went briefly nuts because there was a picture of, I think her name is Daisy Johnson.
Yeah.
And Simo Lau together on like an evening out. And
oh, really?
People were like, oh, does this mean there's going to be, you know,
like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crossover.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know. They might, you know, there are things from that show that, you know, maybe they do want to carry over into the mainstream MCU now that they're bringing all the Netflix stuff in. I'm not fussed. S.H.I.E.L.D. is like the one Marvel thing that I just could never really get into. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as much as I love Coulson.
I found it to be a really good. Okay, so I'm rewatching all of NYP. Well, not even rewatching because I never really watched it until later seasons the first time around. But NYPD Blue is on Disney Plus right now on Star. Okay. So I'm watching that from the beginning. But I'm watching it as I work.
Right. Like, I've always wanted to see that too, actually. Yeah. Funnily enough.
Oh, it's a freaking great show. And that's how I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was
just like on in the background. Yeah, I think that's a good way to watch it because, like, you know, there were episodes I liked, there were things about it I liked, but well,
it was probably the one of all the shows that tied before, like you get into like the current MCU crop. It was the one that tied most successfully into the movies, and I think they planned it out really well because on the week that Captain America: Winter Soldier dropped, they had all that, the ramifications of that pop up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they actually kind of tied into that stuff really freaking well.
Yeah, I remember that like Lady Sif in one of the episodes. That, you know, which tied in with, like, you know, one of the, you know, maybe it was Thor Dark World, or, you know, I'm not sure exactly.
But you know, so fair play to them. I think it was just that curse of, hey, we need 22 episodes of this, and it's just like Jesus. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like we're now kind of into that thing with Damage Control where they could be, you know, a very dodgy agency. And you know, the wedding itself, I think is handled kind of really lovingly and really affectionately, and I absolutely loved it. You get the full on Bollywood dance.
All these traditions, which you know, if you're a non-religious person or a non-Muslim person, you just wouldn't be familiar with, which is really cool. Like, funnily enough, I just went to a wedding this past weekend, and it was a like Greek Orthodox wedding, which,
oh wow,
you know,
okay.
Yeah, which had all these like neat little traditions that I, you know, it's like, oh, okay, this is really cool. I'm learning something about, you know, like a different culture, which, you know, you very much feel that way watching, you know, or I felt that way watching the episode this week. You get to see all these, you know, all these little traditions and you know, find a little bit about the meaning behind them. And it's just, you know, it was a cool window into that.
Yeah. I really liked it, and I loved the thing with Emmerich, like grabbing all the money. Because but what I loved about that, it wasn't just grab the money. It was, he talks early on in the episode about, I've got $750 to my name, and you know, and you can see in that the fear of providing
for his family,
for your family and all that, and I kind of liked that carrying through. And I also love the thing of when they're outside the wedding, when they've had to evacuate the actual location. There's another wedding going on in another part of the building, and they've come out and they have a moment, and like you know, it is genuinely one of the nicest shows to sit and watch. Yeah. And I think partly because it's sort of powered by young teens, and who sit nicely between the kind of Rory Gilmore and some of the kids from Dawson's Creek, you know. They're kind of, you know, well, they're not too good to be believable like Rory, but they're not so bad that they're like, you know, Michelle Williams' character in the first couple of seasons of Dawson. You know, they kind of sit nicely between that. I think because it's powered and it's kind of through their eyes, it's done in a very sweet way. I do love, even in the dance, did you notice the thing in the dance when Bruno gets up to dance? He's kind of fake slapped by Kamala. She kind of fake slaps him and sort of shuns him in the dance. And it's just like, poor Bruno, getting friend zoned, even when they're freaking dancing.
Oh, I mean, like, speaking of, like, so just as they're about to actually share a slow dance.
I know.
Yeah,
Cameron.
Right. Cameron, yeah. Before we get into it, I learned something this week, you know, in my internet travels. Did you know that the actor who plays Bruno was in the running to play Spider-Man?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I read that.
What's his name?
I can't remember what's his name here. Let me. I actually have it in my notes somewhere. But Matt Lintz.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I will.
You know, you can kind of see it. You know, it's like he could. Yeah,
definitely. I think he could have carried that. I think probably the only reason Holland would have edged a lot of those actors out is his physical ability, because he was already a dancer and a gymnast before,
right?
You know, from Billy Elliot days and things like that. I will run through the writing and directing credits of the show at the end, guys. Sorry, I didn't do it at the beginning like I normally do, just because we were in a rush to get to the episode. So sorry about that, but I will run through those. Yeah, so you know, we have this great kind of fight sequence, which I really liked, because in a way, it's not even really a fight sequence. It's just Kamala running away from these guys. Right,
it's more of a chase. You know,
before we get to it, I do have to give a special shout out to, you know, from my heart, Brown Jovi.
Oh, Brown Jovi, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I loved that juxtaposition of Living on a Prayer with, like, you know, with that chase sequence.
And of course, just for Bruno and Kamala, they get to play one of the best Bon Jovi slow songs ever. You know, so Bed of Roses, Heartbreaker, tears, man, tears. Every time. If you've not had a good drunk cry to Bon Jovi's Bed of Roses as an adult male, you haven't lived. I'm telling you.
Well, I cannot relate, but you know.
So yeah, I mean, special shout out to those guys who are also available for Eid and bar mitzvahs. They are great. I really freaking hope they're a real thing. I really hope that there is a real wedding band called Brown Jovi.
Brown Jovi, yeah.
Like, I am going to internet search the shit.
Look it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I you know, Cameron is trying to protect Kamala because he, you know, now Bruno's kind of said this could be dangerous and you could destroy the universe or destroy Earth by making this jump and sending them home, which Najima already knew. But I mean, I said straight away those were going to be the bad guys, right?
Oh yeah. But it does seem like Cameron is actually kind of he doesn't you know want to take things as far as his mom does, even though he probably did kind of, you know, approach Kamala at his mom's orders. It seems like he genuinely likes her and kind of is trying to protect her.
Yeah, and also it does go to an interesting true life thing, which is immigrants versus children of immigrants. You know, we want to go home versus I don't want to go. Like, I'm not interested in traveling back to the country of mine, but like I don't, or you know, the country where I'm from necessarily, because and there is something in that I find in kind of immigrant children sometimes. I'm not saying it's a broad case for every one of them, but there is something in that. There is something there, and it was interesting to see it touched upon in this episode.
It's interesting that she has a 17-year-old kid. You know, as
I mean,
that hasn't been explained. You know, it's like, well, and who's the dad, and you know, what's the deal? Why, you know, if she would have been, you know, over 100 years old at least.
And I love Kamala still crushing on him.
Right.
Where one of the clandestines says,
"Oh yeah, she is adorable." Like, you know.
No. But what made me laugh was there's a moment where she was like, "Oh, you guys look pretty good for, you know, being around in 1942." And one of them goes, "Oh, well, he's just a 17-year-old kid." And she just goes, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, you know, so.
And then,
her
of course,
crush remains intact.
Yeah.
And then they blow up his spot and say that, you know, he thinks she's adorable. So she.
But also the thing of Brian versus Bruno.
Oh, I know.
Where he keeps getting his name wrong. And it's just like he's doing it on purpose, man. But of course, now in the aftermath of this episode, we are now dealing with some quite serious stuff. Bruno's been injured, and Nakia has found out that
Kamala is Nightlight.
It's Nightlight, yeah, and he's actually quite angry that it's been kept from her. So that's kind of, I'll be interested to see what the ramifications of that are in episodes sort of 4, 5, 6. Also, I do want to reveal something very serious at the end of this episode, so stick around for it, guys. It's a major thing, Liz, that's going to have serious ramifications for the MCU. I'm telling you.
All right.
So, and especially in this show. But yeah, and you know, so we're left in this kind of very interesting place because they're rescued effectively by damage control, but then have to run from damage control.
Right.
Which does make you wonder who the big bads are really going to be by the end. I mean, obviously it's the clandestines, but at the same time, who are damage control really working for now? Who's, you know, there's some stuff there. I would love, I mean, with Feige saying, oh, the next sort of phase or the next kind of big plot line is going to be revealed. I'm willing to bet it's going to be in this show.
Really? What makes you say?
Yeah. I've just got a feeling that we're going to get we might start to get the over, because like a lot of people have complained over the last sort of few months, partly because of the pandemic stuff and the delays in releasing, that this phase of the MCU has been a bit formless and shapeless, whereas the you know, phase 1 to 3 kind of had a definitive shape about it, which was always, you know,
the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. So I wonder if, in a way, they must have known that by the time they're getting through, like Hawkeye and like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, this phase has been all about the multiverse and and you know, timelines
but we still haven't had the big threat yet, and it's
we don't know if we've had the big threat yet.
Maybe, we're assuming we haven't. So
right. I mean, you know, and the other thing is too, until, you know, I mean, people want to say that, but at the same time, you didn't know you were building to the Infinity Gauntlet until you got to Avengers 1, and that was 4 years into
but it still had
4 films into their, you know,
it still had that shape because
it did in hindsight, but at the time you wouldn't have known it until that stinger at the end of Avengers 1.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And even then, they didn't actually reveal it was the gauntlet, to be fair.
Right.
But I think we're gonna, is the big threat gonna be somehow?
I mean,
the X-Men. Is the big threat gonna be
Kang?
Well, I mean, Kang obviously is a big one, but is Kang gonna kind of herald something else?
Maybe. I mean,
big.
Yeah. Right, sure. But
I wonder if there's going to be an element of that. I mean, I'm looking forward to Kang coming back because, as we know, Liz, one of my favorite characters now.
Yeah, hanging on about Kang.
Which, by the way, guys, if you want to read something that's really good about Kang the Conqueror, there's an excellent book called Only Myself to Conquer.
Yeah, if you watch this show, you may never have heard of it, but
that one was for Liz. That was just for Liz.
Yeah.
Because she's special and deserves special things.
I do. I meant to say last week, too, when we were talking about the Young Avengers, and you've
read the Kang Conqueror book and you loved it too.
I mean, I'm just going to say that, you asked, Young Avengers, who would their big bad be?
And is it Kang? Kang?
It might just be Kang.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course, because I was actually talking about like an idiot. I wrote because I hadn't read much Kang stuff before. I did write in my review for Kang the Conqueror, Only Myself to Conquer, which is an excellent book that you should all read. It's so good, Kang versus himself. I'm surprised no one's done it before. And of course, I was then flicking through a copy of, I think it was your Young Avengers Volume 1 when I still had hold of that. And of course, that is the crux of that storyline. Alan Heinberg, I guess.
Right, yeah. I mean, don't give them too many details away for the uninitiated, but,
Well, I didn't actually read it. I just happened to get the gist from flicking from seeing Nathaniel Richards and Kang in the same panels. It's like, oh, yeah, of course someone's done it before. So, yeah, idiot me. I whatever. Just we'll see what happens, but I wonder if we're going to get something else on the horizon.
It could be something big.
Again, I'm basing that apropos of nothing. I'm just throwing crap out there. I ultimately am not one of those people that sits there kind of going, I think it's going to be this clues. Not because I don't care, but I like to let things unfold. I'm happy to let it just.
Well, I'm really ready for some big announcements from Marvel. Yeah. I feel like it's been a little while since I've gotten anything.
Well, gotta congratulate the Marvel PR department because they always find some way to get themselves trending every week. I'm
on tenterhooks. Again.
We'll see what happens. But go on. Sorry, Liz, you wanted to...
to get back to the episode, we leave off at a very interesting place. One of the things that happens during the fight is that suddenly both Kamala and Cameron's mom see a train approaching.
Yes.
And the train and
train to Karachi.
So that's, this train journey has been referenced from the first episode, with the disappearance of Aisha and and her daughter Kamala's Nani, following this trail of stars, and this is when Aisha disappears. So what does it mean? We don't know yet, but we do know that she gets a phone call from Nani saying, "You need to come to Karachi. I just had a dream about the train. Did you see it?" And of course Kamala did. So we it's interesting, as you said, maybe Nani has the other bracelet, or maybe just through her use of the bracelet she is still kind of connected to it, because the power, the bracelet seems to harness a power that's already inside of Kamala, which is this Noor presence, which is they come from the Noor dimension. So Nani would have it as well. So maybe they are just connected, maybe she doesn't need the bracelet to feel that presence. It seems as though in the next episode, Kamala maybe going to Karachi, or
I'd be interested to see where that takes us. The train itself is a train to Karachi, as we saw on the front of the train. So who knows? Be interesting to see where it goes, and it's extending into that thing that Marvel are doing a lot lately, which is they're visiting the kind of origin points for their characters. So with Moon Knight, we got to go to Egypt for an extended for the last chunk of almost for the entire last chunk of the series. Here, I suspect they're going to do the same thing, which should be nice. Very different. There is a huge following for the MCU in India. Like a lot of the countries have their own social media accounts, like official social media accounts and stuff. So, and it'll be fascinating to see that. Speaking of India, I do have to just digress briefly here. Starting, I think next week, maybe the week after, our very own Rob Deb will be sending us reviews from the London Indian Film Festival, which I'm really looking forward to, because it's not a branch of cinema that I know a hell of a lot about. So I'm really looking forward to Rob's take on those movies. So please do keep an eye on that. There'll be written reviews. We might do a podcast sort of wrap-up episode on it as well. And speaking of Rob Deb, you can catch him on our Doctor Strange episode, which is on this channel now, and on our Jurassic World episode, which is also on this channel. So it's one episode of The Real Crush and one episode of 24 panels per second. Do give those a look. They're really good episodes. We do touch on some of the deeper themes in there, but also, talk about some of the fun stuff as well. Liz, one last thing on this, or unless you've got anything else you wanna hit for?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Very long episode this week, Liz. God, we've gone well over.
I think we've gone off on some tangents, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's all your fault. Would you like to? There's a song played at the end of this episode, as there is for every episode. Would you like to hazard a guess at what this song might be called for this week's episode?
Funnily enough,
did you look it up?
I could tell you because I liked the song.
Me too.
So I did look it up. Let me see what it's. Yeah, I can't remember exactly the title though. Let's see.
It's,
let me do it. Yeah.
Because you don't get anything else throughout the episodes, do you? You're completely bereft of moments or chances to show your knowledge.
Right. Well, my phone's being really slow.
Rolls down my cheek.
I have one of those things where if the song is playing, then it's like will tell me. Okay, so it's called For Aisha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's by Member and Evan Gear, featuring the Nuran sisters. It's featured in The Sky is Pink, which I don't know it might be a film or other. I don't know. But I'm going to kind of look into that more. I really like the song.
It was a really good tune. I really liked it a lot.
And also, hats off to, I believe her name is Laura Cartman, who's doing the score for the show each week. The opening music that we got over the Marvel logo, freaking superb. Like, I absolutely loved it this week.
The score and the soundtrack have been really excellent.
As was Moon Knight. Actually, someone was tweeting out about the Moon Knight score today, and I can only agree. It's terrific scores. Just quickly, this episode was called Destined. It was directed by Mira Menon. Teleplay was by Freddie Cyborn and AC Bradley and Matthew Chauncey, and the story was by Freddie Cyborn. Just to give you a quick, we will try and do more of the credits as we go on, because we know we're terribly bad at that. Credit where credit's due. These guys are doing a fantastic job. Obviously, there is a great little short documentary on Miss Marvel that you should watch if you haven't, which is on Disney Plus. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. Did you
I
happen
did
to see
watch
that,
it,
Liz?
yeah,
It's a really good little kind of precursor to the show and to the sort of fandom and Iman Vellani as well. Yeah, that's it from us. There is one thing I want to say, serious, Liz, like big time now, absolutely serious.
Go on.
The thing that we missed from last week's episode that is going to have, major ramifications for the MCU and for the show. And I was a bit shocked that you didn't pick up on it. Quite frankly, a bit disappointed.
Really?
So much so, Liz, that I have actually entertained, having another host come on for She-Hulk, because I'm just, because what's the point if you're not picking up on the major things anymore? You've already got one idiot on the show. We don't need another one.
Yeah, well, don't worry about that. That's yeah, go on then. Get to your big drum roll here.
I'll get to it at my freaking speed. Thank you very much. I've got the clock here. I can see how long it's going. Don't you worry. The audience loves it. I'm surprised. In fact, Liz, after you missed this last week, I'm surprised you can tell the time, quite frankly. Yeah, because the major thing is that the identity of the mosque shoe thief was revealed in episode 2. And you missed it.
I did miss it.
You did miss it.
Okay.
So did I. To tell you the truth, I had to look it up on the website. So if you notice, when at the minaret, when Kamala is rescuing the young lad from his precarious situation, there is a cut to his shoes, and he happens to be wearing Nakia's Versace trainers.
Oh my god!
So that little bugger was the mosque shoe thief.
Right. Okay. No, I did not catch on either viewing. I watched it twice, and both times that just sailed right past me. So yeah.
There you go, Liz. See, sometimes
egg on my face.
Sometimes I'm useful. If you want to see how useful I am every week, just follow me at the Comic Crush. You can also follow me by myself rather than the website at Comic Crush Paul. Comic Crush is nearly out. I mean, it's taken a long time to build. Obviously it hasn't gone as fast as I'd like, but it is the downside of it being a sort of one-man thing, is that I can't get as much content out as I'd like. I'm doing my best. I'm really trying, and I'm really happy to have people like Liz and Nikki and Keith and Rob who come on board and do stuff, and really appreciate it for that. So it was just a minor achievement. We're nearly at 1,000 followers on the Comic Crush Twitter. I'd love to see more of you on the Instagram. We're also on there at the Comic Crush. Like I said, you can follow me personally if you're really desperate at Comic Crush Paul. Liz, who you'll follow not because you're desperate, but because you like good Marvel content. You can follow at Liz C. Jordan just there. You should also check out her website, which is really good, which is lizcjordan.com. Sorry. I've had to talk so much to talk over Liz that I'm now coming down with something.
Well,
you can join us for more Miss Marvel shenanigans next week, I hope, at the same time on Fridays. It's been great having you all watching and listening. Thank you to everyone listening on the podcast. Do check out the Patreon or the web store. Any purchase from the web store helps support the Comic Crush and helps keep it going. It is an expensive thing to run, so do help me out if you can. I would love that, and I really appreciate that all of you are tuning in and listening. Thank you to everyone who has put in comments. Thanks to all the new subscribers. We'll be back with more comic-based or non-comic-based genre content pretty damn soon. Keep an eye on that on this channel. Liz, it's been a thin slice of heaven.
As always, I'm sure.
I think you meant as sometimes, Liz. Yeah, it's been great to see you as always. Thanks for coming on, and thank you to everyone for tuning in and watching and listening. Goodbye.